You were surprised by this announcement. How did they catch Mike Mayo by surprise?
Well, it looks to me like the CFO got fired. At the same time, the CEO is the same. There's no change at the board. Actually, this is over the last 8 years, you've had now, with the changes, 4 chief financial officers, 4 chief risk officers, and 4 heads of the brokerage business, the wealth management business. So the message from this is it's good to be the boss.
Michael Moore of Bloomberg News was talking about this was linked to the stress test and the pressure for Bank of America to move from some remedial issues to being a better bank. That dovetails with your question with governance. Is Mr. Moynihan this morning leading Bank of America to being a better run bank?
I think the oversight issues at Bank of America are the worst they've been at a big bank since Citigroup before the financial crisis.
Was this action today initiated by the board, or do you believe this was Mr. Moynihan acting alone?
I'm not sure, but there's many chefs in the kitchen at Bank of America when it comes to their problems. They've had issues with the Fed stress test 2 of the last 3 years. Remember, last year they had a $4 billion regulatory capital misstatement. So in the 105 pages of the proxy this year, the proxy doesn't mention those issues. The board needs to be held more accountable.
I want to get you buy, hold, sell on this. Gerard Cassidy, your colleague at RBC Capital Markets, has enthusiasm about Bank of America as a value that can become more like Diamond, more like Stump. Do you agree with your colleague, Mr. Cassidy?
I disagree vehemently because I don't believe they have proper oversight at the board level and at the top of the firm. There's not the right tone set at the top. There's inconsistent financial metrics. There's not one forward-looking financial target. We, collectively as investors, need something to hold management accountable to. There's not enough financial metrics that we can say, okay, this is what they're trying to achieve under this specific time frame.
We've been talking about oversight and the stress test results. This move, was it about competence or was it about a difference in strategy?
We don't know for sure. The press release from Bank of America reads like it was written by someone at the Kremlin. I mean, someone's...
They usually do.
I mean, you know, it's a lot of shared responsibility. One person in charge of strategy, someone else in charge of the strategy. But look at the issues that Bank of America's had. They have had issues with the stress test. They did have a capital misstatement. They have had inconsistent financial metrics. There's lack of connection from compensation to financial metrics. That falls on the CFO.
So it sounds like you're saying competence.
Well, it falls on the CFO, but it also falls to the CEO and the board. And it seems like one more person is being shot while those above are being protected.
Any candidates for a replacement?
Replacement for
CFO. Is your name mentioned?
Yeah.
They have someone named whose background looks pretty good. I think it's like an ex-Navy fighter pilot, and he's been in the business for over a couple decades. But it waits to be seen. You need to operate within the confines of good oversight starting at the board level. Remember what the board did this past year. In 2009, the shareholders voted to separate the CEO and chairman role, and then this year the board got together and said, forget what the shareholders said. The issue starts at the board.
Mike Mayo, you can give us background on this. We perceive J.P. Morgan as having a past. We perceive Wells Fargo as a past. In Citigroup, Bank of America is a blending of 3 or 4 pasts. You've got Moynihan and the people from Fleet Boston. You've got the Carolinas. You can stand at their tower, their ginormous tower in San Francisco, and speak of the San Francisco history of the franchise. Is this just a turf war over 10 years between this amalgamation that Ken Lewis started and Mr. Moynihan had to pick up?
Yeah, they're still working through the last decade of integrating the cultures. This move by Bank of America certainly consolidates more power in the hands of the Boston power elite. Exactly. You have two directors.
Ann goes up to being a vice chairman, for starters.
Well, yeah, Ann Finucane, she's from Fleet. The new head of brokerage is from Fleet. You have 2 directors from Fleet. Brian Moynihan, the CEO, is from Fleet. So this is Boston is running Bank of America more than it had in the past.
This is amazing to hear that when we talk about financials that culture really matters. How well has the culture of Merrill Lynch been integrated?
You know, I think when people talk about breaking up banks, I mean, you have Elizabeth Warren, you have Bernie Sanders now, and this is going to be a topic in the presidential election. I think back to Bank of America right now because maybe Merrill Lynch should be liberated. Set Merrill Lynch free. I think the brokers would be quite happy under that scenario. So I think they're still working out the kinks. And again, this is, by our estimates, will be the fourth head of the brokerage business at Merrill Lynch with this upcoming change. They're still trying to find the right formula.
Mike, you're a radical. You're going to go on the streets with a sign, a placard saying "Set Merrill free." You're about to start a movement.
Look, the bottom line here is there's two sets of too big to fail banks. There's J.P. Morgan and Wells Fargo, and there's Bank of America and Citigroup. Mr. Moynihan has to get from point A to point B. What is the methodology to get that bank to be more like Fortress Diamond or Fortress Stump?
Consistency of strategy. Look at the annual report of Wells Fargo from 2 decades ago. It looks
the same.
It looks the same. Look at the message from Jamie Dimon and J.P. Morgan from a decade ago, not as long as Wells Fargo. Right. It's very similar.
I want to cut. Okay, I agree with that, Mike. I want to cut some slack to Mr. Moynihan as he's still picking up the pieces from Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, but let's get over that. I mean, that's the excuse that Wall Street wants to give Brian Moynihan. Yes, he inherited a tough hand. Yes, it was a mess. Yes, he had a lot to clean up. But we're after the 4-year period of that. Let's get on with the next stage of Bank of America's evolution. I'm not sure the changes yesterday are enough.
This new CFO, how does he work with Mr. Moynihan?
Carefully.
Let's leave it there. Michael Mayo, thank you so much with CLSA as we speak on Bank of America.